What's up, y'all? Sparta here. What I'm going to do is going to be a little bit interesting. I'm going to record my comparison between the Xiaomi 13 Ultra and the 14 Ultra. I'm using the 13 Ultra to record this right now. So, what's going to happen is that I'm obviously going to shoot with one and then shoot with the other and then edit them together and whatnot. But you don't really need to know the behind the scenes to that. The OnePlus 9 Pro, while nice, the 888 is a quite frank. I want to say POS, but whatever. Trying to record 4K 60 FPS video on that damn chip, with a phone with that chip that's not the One Mark III anyway, is kind of grueling. It kind of sucks, but whatever. Without further ado, let's get into this. So, Snapdragon 8 Gen 3, 16 gigabytes of RAM, memory expansion up to 16 gigs as well. So that's just you take your storage up to 16 gigs of your storage, and then you could allocate that as extra RAM for your system. And it's pretty nice, not necessarily something I would advise anyone to really use like that. It's not that big of a deal. These phones are so efficient now anyway. What's really the point? 16 gigs is more than ample storage, but whatever. You have 4 cameras on the back, obviously 4 50 megapixel cameras. Imagine if there were 4 megapixel cameras. But 4 50 megapixel cameras, the Light 900, the IMX 858 across all 3 of these, and this has an f-stop of 1.63 all the way to f4. You go within the auto mode, you can go from 1.63 to f2.0 to f2.8 to f4. In the pro mode, you can go way more granular. It's actually crazy, dude. It's actually really crazy how granular you can go. But you can go granular, and that's really nice. I'll talk about the camera in a second and a couple of my gripes with it. What the fuck? Okay. But yeah. In terms of the overall look, I do like how the 14 Ultra looks. You might say, oh, it doesn't look that much different from the 13 Ultra. And yeah, it doesn't. But in terms of like the overall look and feel of it, it feels substantial. It doesn't feel that much different. And from the top, you get the same speaker on the top. You get the same speaker on the bottom. And it's actually very nice. Your IR blaster is now within the camera housing, so you still get it. A lot of people wonder, did they take it away? No, it's still there. It's actually very nice that they still decided to keep it. I feel like a lot of Chinese people within China, I don't know how to, Chinese people, fine, well, fuck it, still use IR blasters, so that's why basically every Chinese manufacturer still has them. Hell, even OnePlus has brought them to their phones. So that's actually very nice. You get a Leica Summilux lens on here, so it's actually very nice. Nice coating for things that will like be anti-glare and reduce lens flaring and stuff like that. It's very nice. And you get a floating medium telephoto lens there. You get your ultra wide, you get your periscope zoom lens. 3.2x on here, 5x on here. Sure, you can do the super zoom up to 120x like you can on a Galaxy. As always, even back with the Galaxies, I still wouldn't advise anybody to do that because it just looks like trash, but pick your poison, bro. Pick your poison. It's not really up to me. Got a textured power button on here now, which is very nice. Very nice. It feels substantial, a flatter display, so that's very good as well. And really nothing that I would say is necessarily bad about the design. It feels good in the hand for me. It's a little bit shorter than the 13 Ultra, which is a little bit weird to get used to, which is probably why it takes me a little bit more time because, as you guys can see, I don't have tiny hands here. So it's like not necessarily a deal breaker at all. I do like bigger phones, but it's something that I would say to keep in mind if you have smaller hands. It may be a little bit more wieldy for you, but for me personally, it's a little bit on the shorter side, and it's a little wider too, which is also odd, but it's still comfortable for me. Now here's the look at the 13 Ultra for a little bit of comparison. Obviously, you have the IMX 989 here. You get f1.9 to f4 on the variable aperture. It's just a two-phase variable aperture. You have your ultra wide here. You have your 3.2x telephoto here, and you have your periscope here. This has a Summicron lens, which is still high quality, still pretty damn good when it comes to anti-glaring. But I do feel like in terms of the IMX 989 versus the Light 900, there are differences and there are key improvements that I do feel could nudge people to get it, but get a phone with it. But I wouldn't necessarily say the 989 is a complete deal breaker or it's a POS by today's standards. I don't really think it is. I still think it's a very nice sensor, mainly due to the fact that when you guys have seen like recent photos that I've been posting up with the 13 Ultra, you can still get phenomenal photos with the IMX 989. And night mode, I will say between the two, it's kind of negligible in a lot of ways when it comes to like the clarity and overall stability of the image. The 14 Ultra definitely does better, but it's not that big of a leap. And I'm not saying that to be, it's a disappointment. You're talking about going from a very good sensor to another very good sensor. It's just upgraded in certain ways where you can do 4K 120 video recording and stuff like that. And I really do feel it's nice to be able to have that sort of lock on things. But overall, I really do like a lot of what both of these phones do, how both of these phones look. They feel premium, they feel substantial, they look the part. Both have optical fingerprint sensors, not ultrasonic. I really do wish with the 15 Ultra that they go ultrasonic or go the Qualcomm Max sensor that Vivo uses in their Ultra phones. It would actually, or I guess Ultra phone, technically the X100 Ultra is their first Ultra phone. But if we're gonna backport and call like the X90 Pro Plus, the X80 Pro Plus, or 70 Pro Plus, things like that, Ultras too, technically, I would say that Ultra phones need the absolute best. And having the absolute best fingerprints in-display fingerprint sensor is nice. But you also get very fast face unlock too. Like, I don't really have any sort of issue with the face unlocking on either of these phones. On both it's fast. I do feel at times it's a tad faster on the 13 Ultra, but that's neither here nor there. It's not necessarily a big deal. Also, another thing that I've noticed is that on the 13 Ultra, when you double click to go into the camera, it does, and I'm holding it like this so it doesn't detect my face, because these wide ass selfie cameras, I don't understand it. But when you do that action, what it'll do is it'll still activate the lock screen. So that's something that is a thing on the 13 Ultra, whereas on the 14 Ultra, there's a bit more of a delay, so that when you double click, it doesn't lock your phone. It just goes into the camera, and then you could back out of the camera and get right back to your home screen, or go to the gallery and look at the photos you took or whatever, right? So it's actually very nice, and I really do like that a lot. So let's get into the nitty gritty, I guess. Sorry. I'm in the. Let's talk about the screen on each of these. First of all, let me do this. Both of these are going to look a little weird because I'm in this room and the white balancing is a bit off. So let me try autofocus. There we go. That's a little bit better. So let me actually. Sorry. It's a little yellow, but whatever. We're doing it live. So my 13 Ultra is still running on what the fuck, MIUI 14. I haven't gotten the HyperOS update for it. I think it's because this is a Chinese variant of the phone. It's the 16 gigabyte 512 gig version of it, and it's unlocked, and it also has the global ROM slapped onto it. So that's probably why I'm not getting the update. So what I might end up doing is locking the phone and, porting the Chinese ROM onto it just so I can get the updates for it. But so far, so good. It's really not that big of a deal. It's just something that kind of sucks, but it's not really something that I would say, oh, I can't use the phone. The phone is still very usable. And there are a couple things that I do think are worth keeping on here on MIUI 14 that are kind of omitted from HyperOS. I don't know if I say EM. I've been mixing EMUI and MIUI too goddamn much. I don't even have a Huawei phone. That's how stupid that is. But whatever, dog. It's fine. This has a curved screen, so that's something that I don't like. But let's talk about the cameras here, right? So the cameras on both of these are very nice, but one thing that you can do on here that you can no longer do on the 14 Ultra, let me get out of Pro Video mode, is that in Leica Authentic, so you won't really be able to see it, you can shoot 50 megapixels, as you guys can see the 50 there, in Leica Authentic or Leica Vibrant. Now let me show you the difference here. Now just to show you guys exactly what I mean, when I do that, it goes instantly into the camera. I back out, it stays on the home screen. But I also just keep the camera in my dock anyway, so it's not that big of a deal. Let's go back to Pro Photo. So as you guys can see, not really, but as you guys can see, 50 megapixels up there. Got Leica, but I hit this. Ultra HD only works in Leica Vibrant. Why? Oh, no wonder they got. Oh, my bad. Why is the EV down so much? Whatever. It only works in Leica Vibrant. Why? That makes no sense to me. That legitimately makes no sense to me. Because it works no problem on here. And what I've heard is that people that have like HyperOS on like a 13T Pro also have this. And the Xiaomi 14 and 14 Pro also have this, where you can't use Leica Authentic in 50 megapixel Ultra HD mode, even though it's just the same shit. Fix that, Xiaomi. That just makes no sense. It makes no sense to have that be omitted. But some things that I do feel are really cool, you could set manual mode presets. So as you guys can see, I have a Sun Stars one that I saved right here. That's actually very nice. So when I hit this, it'll stop the phone down to I believe it's F2. and it'll go with all the other settings I set within the manual mode. It's very much like Graphy on LG phones back in the day, where they had the same thing where there were presets you can pick for certain scenarios. You can do that here, and that's actually very cool. You can import some and you can add new ones. And then what's actually also nice is that with the photographic styles, you could do this too. So you can set all these parameters. You can set all these parameters here. Go to Style Presets, and then save it. And then you always have that for whenever you want to use it. That's nice. And I believe that also keeps things like the filter that you use and all the other stuff too. I believe it does. Let me check. It should. That would make no sense for it not to, but you never know. You never know. So let me show you guys. I'm gonna try to do this. It's actually not gonna be, I'm probably just gonna have to do it separately in a different kind of video, but yeah, I'll show you how granular you can get with the aperture in a different kind of video. But overall, that does suck, but I think having things like the custom presets that you can make and stuff like that is very nice. Would I say that it's something that's a deal breaker for me? No, not really. It just is kind of a bummer. It's not like the One Mark 6 where a phone that is in a line that is supposed to be video centric doesn't have a pro video mode. You have to wait to get that a different update. I don't know why anyone would spend $1,400 on an unfinished phone, on an unfinished product. Now you could say, in certain cases, why? For one, it's overexposed. Let's do that. Now, for certain cases, you could say something like, "Oh, they need to work on it," or whatever. But it's like I'm not gonna get into whatever. Fuck it. Whatever. Fuck it. Fuck it. We're doing it live. I honestly forgot which phone I'm even holding. That's how very similar these are, but it's not in a bad way. Let me show you guys the difference between the telephoto lenses here. So, give me 1 second. So, I've been talking about this 3.2x medium telephoto that has the floating lens, right? That it essentially gives it more of an infinity focus kind of thing, where it moves back within the camera housing, it's the phone itself, to make sure that it can focus on more granular stuff. This is at night, as you guys can't see it all that well, but I'll talk about selfies in a minute. But these are on here, right? And come on, for a night shot that's that close, that's wild. I can't get that on the 13 Ultra. Now, what I want to talk about here is something that I probably will show in a different video as well, more with screenshots and whatnot. But as you guys can see, I took this with the main sensor, and what ended up happening was it overblew the light. But what happened, which is very crazy to me, is that the next photo, it didn't do that. It got more defined. It's kind of hard to get that. And in the third photo, even more so. Now, a lot of these companies are talking about, our AI algorithms and all this stuff, but I've never seen processing that in real time just is like, you know what, that's not right, and just redoes it the next shot and then the next shot. To me, that's kind of crazy. Now, what I also want to talk about here is selfies. So, something that you can kind of see at the edges here, this is at f1.63. you see that the edges of my beard and the edges here are falling out of focus, whereas the rest are in focus, right? But then my skin looks good, for as good as it can look. This isn't like authentic. I look my color. I'll just say that. Whereas in a lot of other cases, especially on the 13 Ultra, I do have to do things like lower the brightness. I do feel like the Light 900 is definitely far more well managed with things like overexposure and stuff, because a lot of phones do tend to overexpose. I'm not really seeing that issue here, except for that one case with the light that you guys saw. But as you guys can see, the auto mode corrected for that. And this is actually very nice. Now let me switch over to the 13 Ultra and show you guys what I mean in terms of the how that handled it. So as you guys can probably see, but not all that well, I'll probably post these on the community tab just so you guys can see it better. I'm under crap lighting, so this isn't gonna fare well. Don't mind the pimple that came from my cat digging her claws into me. She likes to dig her claws into me when she's on top of me. Gently, but not gently enough. But as you guys can see, my beard is far more defined here, mainly because, has a not as large of an aperture, so it's not gonna be more heavy-handed with that. It is a little bit like it's blurred, but it's not blurred to the point where it's unrecognizable. But what I will say is that what's nice and what I've always done when it has come to the photos on here is that I turn the brightness down, and as you guys can see, the color in my skin is proper, how it should be. But what I like about the 14 Ultra is that I don't have to do that. So it's like, I've heard a lot of people with the 14 Ultra talk about the fact that, it messes with their skin. And obviously, this isn't a race thing. I'm not trying to make this a race thing. But obviously, there are people with lighter skin than me. They're white, right? So they have pale skin. So that might be what the issue is. But for me, going from 13 Ultra to 14 Ultra, the 14 Ultra is far better handled. And to me, that's something that's very nice, because that means I don't have to do things like going to the editing, going to adjust and lower the brightness so that the color of my skin comes back. When I'm trying to send selfies to my girl because she's asking for some, I don't want her to see me with yellowish skin. That's not how I look, right? That's not how I look. But nonetheless, very nice. I really do like that a lot. Let me get to the I'll just make a separate comparison video with the cameras just so you guys can see, but a little bit better. But for the most part, this is with the 3.2x telephoto on here. And yeah, I'll just make I'll make a community post so you guys can see this a little bit better. Definitely see this better. But the 3.2x on here is definitely not as usable as the one on the 14 Ultra. So yeah. Let me just get the fuck out of there. So overall, in terms of what I feel about the 14 Ultra right now, I really do like it a lot. There are the things like the 50 megapixel mode that I do, the 50 megapixel in the Pro mode, not being able to use things like a authentic look that do irk me. But there are a lot of things about both of these phones that I feel are very nice, and they complement each other well. And I feel like the moment that if I ever do upgrade this to Hyper OS, I lose that ability if they don't bring it back, I just wish there were some things that were a little bit more that just stayed that weren't there. Also, things like the auto aperture. It doesn't work nearly as well as this because obviously it's just a two-stage, so it has to be in more severe situations. But on here is far more, it works far better. Like dramatically better. Like it actually functions because you have f2, f2.8, and f4 that you could go between. And depending on the lighting situation and depending on what you're taking a picture of, it will detect and be like, okay, you might want to see more of the scene and whatnot, right? But in terms of a lot of this, I was about to swear, a lot of this stuff, I do feel like it's a little bit finicky that it won't stay on, when I go back into the camera app, it won't stay on f1.63 when I put it on f1.63 and I want that. If I want it on the other apertures, sure, I'll change it to them. But I guess I'll just have to, be in the pro mode for things like that. But overall, the 14 Ultra is very nice. I really do like it. I know I'm recording with it and then having the 13 Ultra in frame, but, I do feel like both of these phones are really quality. I don't really have any sort of issues with them. They're expensive phones, and obviously I'm going to be more in depth with this when I talk about gaming and all this other stuff and using it as a phone in general. Chinese ROM and all the difficulties that may or may not come with that, depending on how you feel. I'll get into that. But in terms of going from 13 to 14 Ultra, I don't regret it. I really do feel the 14 Ultra is a really good phone. And you can't really go wrong with any of the Ultras this year. Even the S24 Ultra, which, while not as extreme when it comes to the cameras, is very much the best productivity phone you could have for the year. So I'm going to talk about for this video. This is Sparta. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the support. Sorry for the long ass hiatus, but as you know, these phones are expensive as hell. So I have to do something, right? I have to put my head through the grindstone, so to speak, and get all of this done. But obviously, I have videos, I have more comparisons, I have more talking that I want to do about these things. But this is Sparta. Thanks for watching. Thanks for the support. Like the video if you like it. Share with people that are interested, and have a good one.